Scroll through any survival channel late at night, and you will eventually meet it. A soup can, maybe a number 10 tin from a restaurant kitchen, sliced open and rebuilt into a strange little L-shaped contraption. The thumbnail glows orange. The text screams, "This tin can stove heats a whole cabin for pennies. They do not want you to know." Forgotten technology. Hidden by the heating industry. Built for nothing, runs on twigs, keeps a family warm through a Montana winter on a handful of pine cones a day. Millions of views, millions of comments from people asking where to buy the plans. And if you have ever stared at your propane bill in February, the pitch lands hard. So tonight, we are going to do something the algorithm will not. We are going to take that little tin can stove apart, examine every claim against the actual engineering, and figure out what is true, what is dangerous, and why the real story is more interesting than the conspiracy. Because there is a real invention buried under all that viral nonsense. It just does not do what the thumbnail says it does. The first thing the videos almost never tell you is the name Larry Winiarski. Dr. Larry Winiarski is a mechanical engineer who trained on combustion research that fed into Environmental Protection Agency emissions standards, and who eventually became technical director at the Aprovecho Research Center in the hills outside Cottage Grove, Oregon. In 1982, Winiarski formalized the design now sold to you as a hidden secret. He published 10 engineering principles, 10 specific rules about insulation thickness, air-to-fuel ratios, combustion chamber proportions, and chimney height that govern every legitimate rocket stove built since. There are now somewhere north of 10 million of these stoves in active use worldwide, the overwhelming majority in developing countries where firewood scarcity is a daily survival problem. Aprovecho still trains engineers. The plans are free. They have always been free. Universities teach the principles in introductory thermodynamics courses. There is no suppression. There is no hidden inventor. There is a documented engineer in Oregon who spent 40 years giving the design away. Now here is what makes the design genuinely clever. Most cast iron wood stoves are essentially controlled bonfires. You light wood, the wood burns, hot gas goes up the chimney, and a meaningful percentage of the energy in that fuel escapes as visible smoke and unburned hydrocarbons. A rocket stove restructures the geometry. Imagine a letter J lying on its side. The short top of the J is where you feed sticks in horizontally. The bend of the J is the burn tunnel. The long vertical leg is what engineers call the heat riser, a tall insulated chimney sitting directly above the fire. That insulated riser is the entire trick. Because the riser walls reflect heat back into the column of rising gas, internal temperatures climb past 700 degrees Celsius, sometimes higher. At those temperatures, wood does not just burn in the conventional sense, it pyrolyzes. The solid cellulose breaks down into a cocktail of combustible gases, and those gases ignite a second time inside the riser before they ever reach open air. You get a two-stage combustion event in a stove the size of a small bucket. The visible smoke largely disappears. The fuel efficiency roughly doubles compared to a standard cast iron box. A handful of twigs really does boil a kettle in minutes. So the physics is real. The fuel savings are real. The viral videos are not lying about the flame temperature or the efficiency, and they are not lying when they show a single thin stick producing a roaring blue jet at the top of the riser. That part is genuine engineering. And the cost claims, taken on their own terms, are also fair. The fuel input is whatever you can scavenge in 20 minutes of walking: twigs, pine cones, dry sticks, the scrap kindling left over from splitting a real cord of firewood, even dried agricultural waste in regions that lack forests. The stove body itself can be built from a stack of empty tin cans, a bag of perlite from a garden center, and packed wood ash for insulation. Total material cost for a backyard build approaches zero if you are willing to dig through a recycling bin. In East Africa, in Central America, in highland Guatemala, where deforestation has put cooking fuel out of reach for ordinary families. That math is not a novelty. It is the difference between a hot meal and a cold one. The original approvecho design priorities were shaped explicitly by fuel scarcity, not by aesthetic minimalism. For outdoor cooking, for boiling water, for warming a small uninsulated workshop while you are actively standing in it, the tin can rocket stove does exactly what the engineer designed it to do. And then we get to the cabin. Here is where the thumbnails quietly fall apart, and here is where the comments section starts getting people hurt. A bare tin can stove has almost no thermal mass. Sheet metal, a fraction of a millimeter thick, stores essentially no heat. The moment the twigs burn down, which happens fast because twigs are not cordwood, the stove body cools within minutes. The room cools with it. There is nothing to radiate warmth through the night. A real cabin in a real winter needs to hold temperature through a 14-hour darkness, with the occupants asleep and unable to feed the fire. A tin can simply cannot do that. The thermal physics will not allow it. Worse, tin sheet metal cycled repeatedly past 700 degrees Celsius warps, scales, and oxidizes. Condensation from cooled flue gas rusts it through from the inside. A stove built from food cans typically burns out within a single heating season, sometimes faster. It is a cooking appliance. The viral framing that turns it into a primary residential heat source is not engineering, it is editing. There is, in fact, a correct answer for cabin heat that uses the same combustion core. It is called a rocket mass heater, and it is the design approvecho and its successors actually recommend for indoor heating applications. A rocket mass heater takes the J-tube combustion chamber and routes the exhaust gases, after they have given up most of their heat, through long horizontal channels embedded in a massive cob bench or masonry mass. That bench might weigh 1,000 kilograms. It absorbs heat during the burn, then radiates it slowly for 12 to 24 hours afterward. You light a fire for an hour in the morning, and the bench keeps the cabin warm until the next morning. That is the real product. It costs more than a tin can. It requires masonry skills, proper engineering of the flue path, and an external chimney that penetrates the roof or wall to safely vent combustion gases outside the living space. Builders charge thousands of dollars to install one correctly. None of that fits in a 15-second TikTok thumbnail. Which brings us to the part of this video that matters most, the part the comment sections never reach. Wood smoke is not benign. The European Environment Agency and associated public health bodies attribute roughly 40,000 premature deaths per year across Europe to residential wood combustion. United States estimates land in the neighborhood of 10,000 premature deaths annually from wood smoke exposure. The active agents are PM 2.5, particulate matter smaller than 2.5 micrometers, and ultrafine particles smaller still. These particles bypass the upper respiratory system entirely. They cross from lung tissue into the bloodstream and have been measured in heart muscle, in liver tissue, in the brain. The documented health outcomes include asthma exacerbation, heart disease, stroke, lung cancer, and accelerated cognitive decline. Even certified clean-burning EPA-rated stoves produce indoor PM 2.5 spikes up to 7 times background concentration during the lighting phase and during refueling, when the firebox door is open and combustion is incomplete. That is on professionally engineered appliances with door gaskets, draft controls, secondary combustion air injection, catalytic converters, and properly installed external chimneys. A tin can stove has none of those things. There is no door. There is no gasket. There is no draft control. There is no secondary combustion regulation beyond whatever happens to occur inside the riser. There is, in most viral builds, no flue routing the exhaust outside the room at all. People light them on a kitchen counter. People light them inside tents. People light them in cabins with the windows closed because it is cold outside, and that was the entire point. And the byproduct, nobody can see, smell, or taste, is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide binds to hemoglobin roughly 250 times more readily than oxygen. It accumulates in the bloodstream. It causes headache, then confusion, then unconsciousness, then death. And it kills sleeping occupants every winter in cabins, RVs, and ice fishing shelters where someone decided a small fire indoors was probably fine. Burning a tin can rocket stove inside an enclosed living space without a proper external chimney is not a minor risk to be balanced against fuel savings. It is the kind of decision that ends with a county coroner. So let us land this honestly, the way the viral videos refuse to. The underlying physics is real. The combustion principle is sound. The fuel efficiency is genuine, and the global humanitarian impact of the design is enormous. Larry Winiarski deserves to be a household name, and he is not. And that is the actual injustice buried under the conspiracy framing. For outdoor cooking, for emergency water boiling, for heating a workshop you are actively occupying with the door cracked open, a properly built rocket stove is a quietly brilliant tool. For heating a cabin overnight, a tin can will not do the job and will probably hurt you trying. The correct build for that application is a full rocket mass heater with a substantial thermal bench and an external chimney installed by someone who understands flue draft. Whatever stove you end up with, install a battery-backed carbon monoxide detector in the same room, replace the batteries on a schedule, and burn only properly seasoned hardwood at around 20% moisture content, because wet wood smolders, and smoldering means incomplete combustion. And incomplete combustion is where the particulates and the carbon monoxide come from. The heating industry did not bury this technology. The heating industry sells variants of it. The trade-off is the whole story. And now you have it.